Welcome back to the Meme Team podcast, where we discuss viral pop culture moments in movies, TV, music, and politics. I'm your host, Sonia, and this week we'll be talking about Christopher Nolan's Odyssey and how it's not just the most anticipated film of the summer, but it might be running one of the most strategically layered marketing campaigns in years. Then we're getting into the World Cup and what big moment marketing looks like in 2026. And then we'll round it out with Ronnie Cheng's Harvard commencement speech, where he told graduates to destroy AI. This week, I'm welcoming my guest, Dino Delic, head of data-driven communications research lab at Meltwater. Dino, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sonia. So great to be here.
Awesome. Okay, so let's jump into it. The Odyssey pretty much took over my timeline last week. And not just because I'm a huge Christopher Nolan fan, but I think what he's doing with the Odyssey paired up with what's happening with like the IMAX marketing is some of the most interesting marketing that's happening right now. So the movie's opening on July 17th. And basically the campaign has three pieces that point back to the same argument. There's the demand crash, which is the IMAX pre-sale tickets were super hard to get. They sold out. I think the AMC app broke down a couple times. And then, Universal and IMAX pretty much didn't say anything. They just, kept, pretty quiet, which is kind of crazy to think about because IMAX is a brand that's doing super well right now. So you would think they want to get people on their side saying, they just didn't anticipate this many people wanting to, buy tickets. Obviously, there's the underlying layer of, the whole idea that this is the first time that movie tickets are starting to get scalped, where it's like, you have scalpers trying to resell them for like thousands of dollars, right? Yeah. The other thing is the format assignments for the different films. So I saw all the stars, basically Zendaya, Robert Pattinson, Tom Holland, all come out to do like little, adverts for all the different formats, which I think was great. One of the first examples we talked about here of like marketing that I thought was like spot on was Ryan Coogler talking about the different formats for Sinners. And then the other thing was the interactive website where you could basically see on the website the different standards of the scenes coming through, where you could compare IMAX versus the standard aspect ratios. So I really like that they're pairing that up. They also threw in the popcorn bucket, right? Like today, actually, they just released the Trojan horse popcorn bucket, which is for the movie The Odyssey, but they're also selling an IMAX camera along with it, which I thought was like really interesting. And
it's
then
all about the merch. It's all about the merch.
I think it's like super interesting that they're going in that direction, right? And then the last thing I saw yesterday, Letterboxd announced that they're now gonna let you designate which format you watch the movie in, which I think is going to do super well for the community because that most of the people that are going to watch this movie are cinephiles. They love movies. They want to prove, they want that social proof of like how they watched the movie. Dino, would love to know your thoughts.
Yes, I'm not a movie buff. My kids make fun of me. I have a 11-year-old and a 9-year-old, and they know when I say, hey, you want to watch a movie, that means dad wants to take a nap, even when we go to the cinema. But this is one of those movies where, I'll be honest, there just aren't that many great movies these days that are worth going to see and staying awake for. This is definitely one of them. And, most of the movies that I see these days are family friendly. And so they're not really going to keep me on the edge of my seat. Did
y'all see Project Hail Mary? I would say that's the last one.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow, you missed out. Okay.
Yeah,
that's definitely one I would have suggested watching on like the big format screen.
I've heard so many great things about it. And honestly, I have not heard that much about the Odyssey, but that's also because I'm a creature who doesn't live on social media that much. The only platform I'm really on is LinkedIn. But I have heard from my cinephile friends, and they keep talking about formats. And one thing is very clear from this campaign, that they're really pushing the PLF, the premium large format concept. What's interesting, as you were talking, what I've been doing is using Meltwater data to sort of analyze what the conversation looks like around this, because since I moved to LA about 8 years ago, I've been fascinated with how my world collides with LA and Hollywood. And that is the changing media consumption habits and social media and how they promote movies, and how you can have a star like Brad Pitt still be such a big star, but have no social media, versus everybody else has to really hustle on social media. And so here, what they've done is, if you look at this cast, It's unbelievable. I
Mm.
mean, it's a
It's
Christopher
all
Nolan
like,
pick.
yeah. Yeah.
And funnily enough, actually, I was hanging out with someone who's a writer in Hollywood over the weekend, and they used to work at Amazon, and they told me about the process internally, how Amazon obviously has an algorithm to determine and greenlight a project. And
Mhm,
if you have a Zendaya, automatic green light.
mhm,
If you have a Tom Holland, automatic green light. If you have a story or a book like the Odyssey, automatic green light. But then there are other times where you may not have those things, and so you need a combination. It's almost
mhm.
like Pokemon cards.
Yep.
But if you look, they have a Christopher Nolan, The Odyssey, Zendaya, Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson, what's his name? Matt
Matt
Damon's in
Damon,
this.
yeah.
Like, there are so many stars in this. So it's,
Mhm,
of course, going to be a huge movie. But I looked at the data, they had 3 specific spikes in
mhm,
social media around this, and it was very coordinated. They clearly all orchestrated these events.
mhm,
There was the trailer drop. That was about 480 mentions that day. The pre-sale, 440
mhm,
mentions that day, so on par. But then the crash was double. It was
mhm,
880 mentions from a particular cohort that I was analyzing.
mhm.
And you said it in the intro, it was interesting that IMAX didn't say anything.
Mhm.
I think that's telling. I think why would they was the crash bad for IMAX? I don't think so. I think I spend my days coaching communications teams
Mm.
on using data to make decisions. And that to me, the data says you don't need to get involved because I don't think the sentiment turned negative towards IMAX. I think
Yeah.
the sentiment turned towards I'm mad I can't see this movie,
Mhm,
and that's
mhm.
exactly what you want in Hollywood these days. It's very hard to sell tickets, so I think they created a very special moment.
Yeah, definitely. The reason why I say they could have done something or said something is that to get more people on their side. So IMAX is currently trying to sell themselves to
Mm,
somebody, to a company, right?
mm,
So it's like if you want to show how much people love you, this is a perfect way of doing it, right? Like can't get us and they're mad that they can't get us. The other thing is they are only in a limited amount of cities, right? So
mm,
LA, New York, like San
mhm,
Francisco, major cities, right? They're talking about wanting expansion into other cities. Well, how do you get that? Is to show that people in the cities that you want to go to are there, right? So that's where it's like, you could be building up that sort of like knowledge of like the data for where people want you the most, and then make business decisions to like move in that direction. But certainly, yeah, nobody was getting mad at IMAX. It's not IMAX isn't the one selling the tickets, right? It's AMC, it's Regal, all the
mhm,
theaters, right? um so it's definitely cool there. I think the other thing that I've like noticed is just how much of a change it's been from even the last like 4 years, where like IMAX is completely just like taking over the conversation of like if you love to watch movies, you have to watch it in IMAX. And if you're
mm,
not, then you're missing out on something. And that's what I think they were able to do with this, where it's like you can actually go see very easily on this website what the different formats allow you to see. And then I saw like a bunch of people post about what an IMAX theater looks like versus the standard.
mhm,
I also think it's like really interesting that like um the movie has become so closely tied to that. Obviously, a huge reason for that is that Christopher Nolan, this is the first film that has ever been filmed on an IMAX camera for the whole like picture. There's been instances where other movies have filmed portions of the movie using an IMAX camera, but this is the first time that it's the full movie. So that just I think that's also like an allure to people where it's like, oh, what's the difference really going to be like, to go see a full IMAX picture? And that's like part of the marketing that's going into it, right? Like I heard Tom Holland, I think it was on the Amy Poehler podcast, say that um, because the camera is so large and so loud that it's very hard for the actors to like not pay attention to the camera filming them, which is like
mm,
not a thing that they ever have to deal with digital cameras, right? Because those are just pretty silent. So it's another level of like showing like how much artistry is
mm,
going into the filming, but also the acting itself, because the actors are
mm.
having higher demands on their what they would
Yeah.
usually have to do for other films.
Yeah, I mean, strategy, which I obsess about, is all about trade-offs. And they clearly had a strategy here to make the movie differently, to
Hmm.
give people a compelling reason to sell tickets. And that has trade-offs. Like, again, you have to pick the kinds of actors that can tolerate that noise and still perform at their best. Who is it? The guy who played Batman,
Robert
American
Pattinson.
Psycho. No, American
Oh, Christian
Psycho.
Bale.
Yeah, like, I wonder how he does with an IMAX camera because,
Yeah.
he'd be in his
Yeah,
own,
right.
that reputation. But, all of this, again, it's a strategy. I think the crash it's not really an outcome, it's an
Mm,
output. And there's a lot of hype. And, let's face it, like social media and the media needs something to talk about. And I think the
mhm.
crash gave them a great story. And I think they manufactured that. But that's just an activity metric for me.
Wait,
There are
wait, you
some
think that they made it so that people would not be able to get tickets? Or
100%.
that it would take longer? Interesting.
I
Okay, tell
think
me
I
why.
think they knew. I mean, these days, if you can handle the capacity, like we kind of know how the internet works, and
Mhm,
they only had 24 theaters where you could watch this, where you could
mhm.
buy tickets for it.
Yeah.
And they kept pushing this premium thing so hard, and they only make it available in 24 theaters. So I think they had such an effort behind getting the hype, and then there is so much scarcity. There's a
Mhm,
high demand, low supply. The crash, I think, was inevitable, and that's why I don't think they stepped in. It's not like they were like, "Oh, what do we do? How do we fix this?"
mm,
It's they probably knew this was going to happen, which created more buzz. And then the scarcity. If you look at, I mean, I work sometimes out of an office in Malibu, and there's a store called Kith.
mhm. Sure, yeah.
I was born in 1984, so I'm not up with all this stuff. But like the idea of lining up to go
Uh-huh.
into a store,
Yeah.
that's what they created a line out the door here for
Uh-huh.
this. But what's important is to look at the size of the room. There were not a lot of seats. There are not a lot of theaters, and I think that is very deliberate. But some critics are saying what I noticed in the coverage, and I was read up on the news articles about this.
Mhm.
The PLF sales are meaningless until the real regular ticket sales, the regular seats, start selling as well. So this movie is going to be successful because it's an epic and it's probably going to win some awards and there's, a lot of hype around it.
Mhm.
But what I keep paying attention to is, can Hollywood get people to come to the theater? And you have to give people a clear, compelling reason. So there is a strategic brand narrative in Hollywood, not just in this movie,
Mhm.
to say, don't watch this at home, come watch it in the theaters. But we all know that our homes are more comfortable than some of the theaters.
Mhm.
So this IMAX thing is really a huge differentiator. But why did they only make it available in 24 theaters?
'Cause there's only 24 IMAXs in America.
But they could have also, I guess, yeah, with the camera and so on and so forth. I think if the amount of pushing that they're doing behind this, there are other options available to them.
But it's not a premium format.
Mm,
Like, even when you look at when you go on, like, the AMC app, and so in LA, where we both live, we have a dearth of, 70 millimeter, theaters, IMAXs. We have the Chinese theater, right, which is the largest IMAX in the world. So it's like we have a lot of options here, but they don't have that everywhere. And so I think it's part that where it's like, yes, you want people to, go to that format. But I think a larger point here from what you were saying is generally people only go to about 2 movies a year, right?
uh-huh.
So every movie, it has to vie for like one of those positions, right? I would say from the movies that were coming out this year, the Odyssey was going to be one of those. It's Christopher
Mm,
Nolan. It has all these like superstars in it, of course, right? This year,
mm,
we've had Project Hail Mary, and then we've talked about it here. Obsession and Backrooms have been like these two, horror films that like have broken records because all of a sudden young people are going to the movie theaters in numbers that they haven't,
mm,
in a really long time. Um, so then, we already had those movies. And then we also have, Spider-Man coming out, Avengers Doomsday coming out. So there's all these other films that are also meant to be tentpole films that are meant to get people out. So already I'm like, wow, people are going to the movie theaters way more than they had,
mm.
like even last year. So that's something where it's like, if we know that we're vying for people's attention, in terms of like what actually will get them to go to the movie theaters, like there's the you can push the premium format on them, or do you lower prices to get people to go, right?
Yeah.
And I would have thought with like, horror films, Backrooms and Obsession and stuff, it'd be like, oh, we're trying to lower, prices. We're not pushing the, IMAX format for that because, you don't really need it. But with a movie like The Odyssey, I think that's why they're putting it so close together, is
Yeah.
because it is an epic. And of course, I feel like most people wouldn't like really frown on paying, $30, which is like what you pay for like the premium format to watch the Odyssey versus you might do for, other films that aren't, that big.
I think this is it's interesting you bring up the sort of pendulum swinging back to in real life IRL experiences. I think this is going to sound so airy fairy. What we all want is to feel something.
Yeah.
And that's what a movie is. It sells a feeling, and I remember distinctly, I'm not going to sit here and be like nostalgic and say, if you remember the movies that you saw in the theaters, it was because I remember what it was like to laugh with 100 other people. I remember what it was like to be scared at the same time. I remember what it was like to be wowed. And there's just so many great options for us to feel this with social media and entertainment. And now you have Netflix, which is a fantastic content library, and we have fantastic TVs. But you can't replicate the feeling of being in a room with a bunch of people who are really into something. And I think there's so many social media posts and articles that I see about young people flocking to those kinds of experiences. And this is just one of those. And I like that you pointed out, they could have made tickets cheaper just to make sure that more people will see it. But it's not going to increase the feeling. The feeling of, this is great value. How great. I walked out and it was $10. That was a great feeling. But you'd rather walk out with, I paid $30, but man, that I felt something, and it's that hype. And that's what IMAX can do. But I really also like this tension. People always love a good battle. There is a constant tension between art and science, right? Like in communications and marketing, it is a blend of art and science. But in Hollywood, it's this interesting blend of battle between art and business. It's how do you a movie has to have a good degree of artistry to it, but if it doesn't make money, it's not going to get made again. And there are some movies that need to really, really make money, and then there's not much substance to it. I'm optimistic. This movie is showing a lot of promise, and I like that they're creating a lot of hype around it, but it's a surefire winner. When you have a cast like this is going to be a good experience. I can't see them messing this up, and I'm definitely going to go see it in IMAX.
Yeah, the question now, though, is are they going to hit that billion mark, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what, like, the big movies are. All the Avatars, most of the Marvel movies prior to this past year, that was the mark that they're aiming for, right? It's $1 billion, right? And then his last movie, Oppenheimer, which, obviously a biofilm about, a scientist, like they didn't think it would reach $1 billion, and it reached, I think it was like 700 to 800 million, right? So close, but not, Batman numbers, right? So I think that's what they're aiming for with this one. And I think that's the mark that people are going to say whether or not it is successful. Because, I mean, we're still talking about Marvel movies not making $1 billion anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because, that was the Avengers. But they're hoping that this next one that comes out in the fall does, right? The other thing I'll say is there's that whole conversation happening right now with like indie movies, right? Where both Backrooms and Obsession are, low budget horror films. I saw this conversation. I'm throwing it in here because we're talking about the money and like what it means for like artistry versus the business, right? So there's a conversation that came out because the art director for Obsession basically went on Instagram and said, I was paid about $6,700 per month for 3 months to film this movie. Now that the movie is close to making $300 million, why aren't we getting any of the benefits for that, right? So you have people in Hollywood taking one of two sides, right? There's her side, which is, everybody in the crew and cast should get some of that money because it is so wildly successful. But then you have the people that like are more on like the business side of things that are like, well, the studio that and production company that like put the marketing in, bought the film, and like promoted the movie, this is probably the only movie that they've invested in that is actually making this amount of money, so they need this money to then put into like future movies. There is something there to be discussed, but it also shows that people are willing to go to the movies a lot more than they were before. It just takes, a little bit more of that groundswell movement to get people to actually go.
Isn't the movie going to be rated R?
Probably.
I wonder if that also sets it back from being able to hit the numbers, that people are hoping for, because you are limiting the audience a little bit.
It has been rated R, yes.
Anytime you think about a movie making $1 billion, we always think of Avatar and the Marvels. But yeah, they just rated it R, and they're really pushing this IMAX thing. Obviously, Christopher Nolan, he's a defender of the artistic integrity of cinema, but he also makes massive blockbusters. They're clearly going for something quite massive here. People are projecting, from what I can see here, anywhere from 700 million to 1.5 billion, as 1 billion being the milestone around the world. I think it's going to be difficult for them to do so, because let's also put this in the context of what else is happening in the world. This is the year that you have the World Cup. This is also, LA is about to have the Olympics. Things are getting crazy expensive.
2 years away.
I wonder just how
I mean,
much.
but the World Cup though, when does that end? Because this is coming out July 17th.
Right around then. I think the World Cup goes for 6 weeks, starts
July 19th.
June.
How funny.
Yeah,
So it'll be around the same.
And maybe, people will be on such a high that they're looking for the next thing that's amazing. And
to be fair, though, Americans, once America is out of the World Cup, which is, probably is bound to happen, let's be honest, they'll stop paying attention to the World Cup, and they'll be the ones going to see the movie. So I actually was wrong. The Oppenheimer reached 975 million box
So
office,
close.
so they almost made it, and it is the third highest grossing rated R film behind Joker and Deadpool Wolverine. So there are 2 instances of other R-rated films making that 1 billion mark.
Yeah.
So it is possible. And I think that is what they're aiming for. And, based on this tally, the excitement, how much people are talking about it, how good the film already seems from the trailers that came out. Awesome. Okay, let's move on to lessons for marketers. So obviously here, demand is the most credible signal. Part of what they've been doing is laying out various points where people can show that they're excited to see the movie. So they did an original pre-sale, which was, I think, like 2 months ago. They did this new pre-sale. They'll probably have another one, closer to the actual movie. But it's already showing that the numbers are coming in. People are excited to see this. So the expectations are going to be pretty high. What are ways that you can do that for yourself? Obviously, doing pre-sale tickets, early bird tickets for an event is always going to be a way to show that early excitement. How do you kind of make it so that people want to jump in from the beginning instead of waiting till the end, right? Like, I like what they did here, which is they paired it with their movie stars to show like, hey, this is why it's important to go watch it on, IMAX, to watch on 70 millimeter. And they each got their own little commercials and they did a whole marketing campaign around this early pre-sale and didn't just focus the marketing campaign on when the movie actually comes out. So is there a way that you can create marketing campaigns to sell those early tickets and have it be its own thing instead of waiting until the end? The other one is that show, don't tell. So it talks a lot about how important it is to get on video and and talk about what it is that you're doing, right? So the fact that all the movie stars and Christopher Nolan went on to talk about this film and the format, what I liked about it is they are talking about IMAX, the camera, and what the movie format is going to look like. And it's not just like, go watch the Odyssey, right? Like, obviously that's inherent in the messaging, but they're not focused on the film itself. They're focused on what is going to make the experience of watching the Odyssey better than if you had just watched it on, a standard screen.
To me, this is about 2 things, like having a clear definition of success. When you have this many stars and you have a massive budget and a great story, this movie is going to be successful. It's any marketing campaign, you have to define what is it that we are trying to do. And I think that's why you see them making very specific moves. And like what you're advising for people to remember, like different tactics for talking about a pre-sale and whatnot. I think campaigns and tactics are much better informed when the strategy is much better defined and embedded with a clear definition of success. So that would be the lesson for me. The second one is also, if you really want people to follow your lead on the call to action, like if you want people to go buy these tickets, you have to remove the friction. You have to understand the customer journey. And that's why they're educating their audience on the difference in the formats. And that can be applied to so many other industries, whether you sell tech or retail products or whatever it might be, or travel. If you want to sell plane tickets to a new destination, then If people don't know about it, if they don't know what to expect, then you might need to educate your audience. So it's not just about getting viral campaigns to get engagement and clicks. That's an opportunity for you to create videos to educate the audience, to remove the friction so that the call to action is something that people will much more predictably take. Those are the 2 lessons for me.
Those are good. Okay, so we're gonna do something slightly different because when I found out that Dino likes soccer and the World Cup, I was like, great, I'm gonna throw in all the commercials that have come out that nobody else has wanted to talk about because they're not fans of soccer. One of the things we talk about here is just like how few instances for the monoculture there are, right? The World Cup is one of those instances. It happens every 4 years. And for the first time since like 94, it's in America. So obviously, a bunch of companies and brands are trying to get in on the American audience. The big one that came across my feed this week was Norway, where this is the first time that they've been in the World Cup since 1998. Which is a huge milestone for them. So basically they had David Yarrow, this British photographer, take a photo of them all dressed up like Vikings to kind of show like, this is the Norwegian team. We're coming, to kick everybody's asses, right? The idea stems from a fan moment that has gone viral, which is that fans in the stands have started doing synchronized Viking row chants when they're in the stands against their competitors, mainly Sweden last year. So the Norwegian Football Federation saw it and built their fan campaign around that, where it's like, okay, if that's how you want to see our, soccer stars, like, let's, go full in onto it. So they put out, the photo, yes, but they also did like behind the scenes videos, showing, the soccer players putting on the costumes. You have Erling Haaland, who is, the superstar from Manchester City, but you have all the other players also getting some of that attention, which I thought like was really cool. But it just goes to show that paying attention to your like audience and your community can give you some of the best ideas for your marketing campaigns, because you can just kind of piggyback on what they've already come up with for you. And it shows that like, not only are you paying attention to them, and what they're doing organically, like this Viking rowing chant, but you care about them because you're taking their idea and like running with it and like really making it into a thing. And I thought it was also a brilliant way to get the players and their mindset to be like, yeah, we're fucking Vikings. We're coming for like, all these like teams and we're going to like maul them down. So I thought it was like really cool also for like their mentality as well. So I'm predicting that Norway is probably going to do pretty well, at least in the group stages. But Dino, did you see this marketing campaign and what did you think?
I mean, I know if I was on the Norwegian national team, I'd be fired up. If you hear your crowd, doing the rowing chant, and you've just done this awesome photo shoot, and you're dressed up like a Viking, and it's the first time you're in the World Cup in so long.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at the photo of some of the other countries' national teams, like people were comparing. I saw social media posts comparing side by side the French national team and the Norwegian one. Obviously, it's night and day. But what was interesting to me, as soon as you said it, I mean, I work for a Norwegian company, and there's a lot of. We actually just partnered with the USC on a report about polarization and how brands are not stepping in on social issues as much anymore. And as soon as I saw this, and I thought, interesting that they're not worried about the connection with Vikings and the history and so on and so forth. But like you said, this is a lesson in knowing your audience. They didn't do this for the rest of the world, for the people that the Vikings conquered, or for the woke left social media people who are going to react and say, well, how could you praise, what Vikings did or whatever. This is for the people of Norway. It's the first time that they've been in the World Cup since 98. They want to get fired up. They're proud of their heritage. And so they wore it loud and proud. And they got some criticism for it. I analyzed it. Like there is a little bit, but they don't care. They're just trying to fire up their team and win. And also, it's not a brand, right? It's not like a company decided to do this because they're trying to sell more product.
Right.
It's the national team. They're just trying to bring everyone together. And it's a small country. It's only like 3.5 million people. I do wish, Bosnia just made it into the World Cup for the first time since 2014. We don't have cool outfits like that. Bosnia's playing their opening game in Canada and then they actually played a friendly in St. Louis where there's a lot of Bosnians. I happen to be Bosnian, which is why we're talking about the World Cup, because I'm excited. But they play in Seattle, LA, and Toronto. And that's what's cool about the World Cup this year. There's so many host cities, like there always are, but it's usually in one country. It's the first time it's going to be in 3 countries. It's on an entire continent. But let's not forget, FIFA has given us a little bit of a gift here. It's a longer tournament than usual. It's an extra week because they boosted the number of teams that qualify by 50%. Now it's 48 teams. So that means that now you have a larger population of the world that is involved in the World Cup than before. There's, instead of 64 matches in 2022, now there's 104 matches. And so that's 104 opportunities for brands to also get involved, for viral moments. It's so much longer. I don't think there's going to be fatigue for those of us that are soccer fans. Maybe football fans or NFL fans or basketball fans may get sick of it. But I think what FIFA did was really, really smart. None of the sports
are playing right now in any like consequential thing, right? You have baseball kind of going, but like their World Series is in October, so it's like the summer is free. Basketball is playing right now. They'll end by the time the actual tournament starts.
Basketball should probably end right at the beginning, which again is the timing is perfect. There's always that lull in the summer where people like me who don't care about baseball are looking for something. Even Americans, everything else it will either be done,
right,
or we'll be getting kindly out of the way. Even MLS, we'll take a break. It's going to be very,
those
very
players
interesting.
will be in the tournament, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Some of them.
Hopefully there'll be some of that translates to the. I couldn't be a bigger fan of the MLS. I love going to the Galaxy games here. I don't know if you've been. I think it's
Not
great
recently,
that it's such a tragedy to me that soccer is not a bigger sport here, but how can you compete? Some of the other sports here are so huge, but it'll be interesting to see what sort of after effect.
So I saw that came out last week, is that the population share has gone up. Probably because, just increasing awareness. Obviously, we have a lot more of the top players coming to, semi-retire here. We had Messi, Beckham, and, obviously everything that's happening in Miami FC. We have the immigrant populations that are continuing to grow. And like, those are the kids where, they grew up with it. They're excited about it and want to, to see it. That's kind of what's also been interesting about like the ads that are, coming out. One thing that I've noticed is how much it's relying on those older like soccer stars from like, I'd say my generation, the Messi's, Cristiano Ronaldo, right? Like that's who, were in these other 2 commercials that I wanted to bring up, which was the Adidas versus Nike. The Adidas one came out like 2 weeks ago, and that was like Timothy Chalamet, coming out. It was like a whole like narrative story of
who
like,
do you have in the back? It was Mbappe or someone. Yeah, they always. I love the ads. I really liked the Adidas one. But the Nike one, the 6-minute
Nike one, right?
Holy
so that one just
moly.
came out. And the one thing I'll say is, so it basically is like a French director wanting to get the players to do a certain move or whatever, which I thought was like, okay, you're not going to get the stars to like do a certain thing. Like the whole point is to get them to, shine on their own, right? So I thought that part of it didn't like work for me, but once it moved into like the players actually playing and like playing in the backlots here in like LA, I thought it was like super special, and you just got to see the different players kind of have their own personalities as well. Holland came out and he had his like body double was Channing Tatum, which was like funny. Kim Kardashian was in it. So there was a bunch of like soccer players, yes, but then you also had celebrities in it that were just, associated with like Nike. So I thought it was like, really cool. It was like one of the longer ads. I think it was like, 5 minutes. So it was like really interesting. And it was like the first one that was like, aside from like the Adidas one, that was like, okay, finally, actual like sports fans that like know and love the sport and want to showcase the players at their best. I feel like some of the other ads just really haven't gone to that level. It's more just about showing the brand, which I kind of find annoying because like I'm more of like I just want to see like the players. Some of the commercials that I remember the most from earlier World Cups are those. It's like always showcasing the players doing cool soccer moves and fun shots and stuff. So, but anyway, so from those 2, which one would you say you liked better?
Oh, simply for its ability to capture my attention. and I have severe ADD. So the 6-minute Nike, that's
Uh-huh.
a winner. And you're right. Like, if you look back, you expect, right? If you're a soccer fan and you pay attention to the World Cup, you're going to get Nike and Adidas doing an ad where they're playing soccer
Mhm.
and, there's some cool action moves and some weird celebrity is going to pop up in there and someone's going to slide tackle someone and it's
Mhm.
just, cool moves. This one didn't have as much story as I would like,
Mm.
but that's what I think the Timothy Chalamet one with Adidas, it had an interesting story because you
Mhm.
could tell he was really acting in it and he carried it quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I liked it. So I did have my full attention, but I didn't leave it. After watching it, I didn't think that kept me on the edge of my seat.
Mhm.
The Nike one did. And again, maybe going back to what we're saying about the Odyssey, the star-studded cast and for how long it went,
Mhm.
it was just so good. But what I'm really interested in, did you see the announcement that Coca-Cola signed a deal with Jose Mourinho for his
Mm-mm.
AI likeness?
No, I didn't.
So that is interesting to me because this will be the first World Cup post ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the last one was 2022,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
really, AI has taken a hold. So I'll be curious to see because we saw that happen in the Super Bowl. There was a lot of discussion around AI,
Mhm.
AI ads, and also the AI products being sold during it. And
Mhm.
I think there's obviously a lot of AI fatigue. So it was interesting to me. Coca-Cola is obviously doing some really forward-thinking stuff with AI in advertising and marketing, signing a deal with one of the biggest names in soccer but doing it with his AI likeness,
Mhm.
very interesting. There's been not that much backlash around it, but
Probably
then
because
again,
nobody's heard of it. I didn't hear about this, and like
they
I have been paying attention, so it's really interesting. Because I mean, we talked about the backlash against their holiday commercial, right? Where they used AI. So yeah, maybe it's because we haven't quite seen what the product looks like.
correct. Yeah, it's just the deal. They haven't really
Mhm.
produced anything yet, but I think that speaks volumes. And this is going to be ongoing, not just throughout. So
Yep.
that now Coca-Cola is allowed to use his and think of the agility and the speed. What was interesting, did you see the Nike campaign where Nike quickly jumped into action and did the Always Knicks campaign in New York?
Mm-mm.
So they bought a billboard, had a campaign of different Knicks fans. So
Mm.
obviously the celebrities that you would expect that you see courtside, but then also the little 3-year-old girl that's a
Oh
huge
yes, yes.
Jalen
Okay, I did
Brunson
see that.
fan.
Mm-hmm.
They, I don't know how long they'd been working on that, but they had the billboard up. Um, at MSG. And when they won the first 2 games in San Antonio, this ended up being the place where fans went and flocked and took
Mm-hmm.
pictures of themselves in front of the billboard.
Mm-hmm.
Huge viral moment and an opportunity for them. And it just goes to show how quickly they can act. So I wonder if that's what this unlocks for Coca-Cola, because
Mm.
now they don't have to fly Jose Mourinho out to do something. And let's face it, he's too authentic to be a good actor. So trying to get him to make a good ad, like he
Yeah.
can only be himself. So it's kind
Uh-huh.
of cool that they did that he allowed them to do an AI digital twin because they can now do some really cool things and he must be okay with it and they
Mm-hmm.
can
Mm-hmm.
whip it up much more quickly. So this is the first of its kind. It'd be interesting to see what they produce out of it. I'm more optimistic than skeptical, but I've yet to see anything awesome happen with AI. Truly, truly awesome. Everything's like almost there, but no one's really quite figured out exactly how to make the brand shine using AI.
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those moments that's like it should be it you have the people, you have the players, right? Like so many of them are so well known. You have like the mega stars, but since you have so many of the country ones also there, like what are those opportunities to play for those audiences directly? I don't know why you would go the AI route when like the people are there. But yeah, I haven't seen any of this. Though I am reading here that he did a similar thing with Snickers in 2024, but I don't
Hmm.
remember that one either. So that'll
I was
be
going to
yeah.
say, you wouldn't take a big gamble like that around the World Cup. Like, I'm sure his team and his agents and all that feel pretty comfortable.
Is he still
But
playing?
no,
Right.
Mourinho's about to start. He's been coaching for a long time. He retired as
Right.
a player for a long time, but
Right.
I think he's about to start coaching Real Madrid again,
Mm.
if I remember correctly. as you can tell, I don't keep up on all the soccer news. I like playing it, not so much following it as much. But the ability, just think about this, like this. So this has only hit the trade news. There's really only 7 mentions in the news and near 0 mentions on social media. But the trade press is talking about how the production efficiency, they're going to create 200 plus pieces of reactive content that, think about a human team, what you would have to stand up to create content reactively. So now with AI, they're going to be able to, something will happen viral that could go viral in one of these 104 matches, and they could quickly whip up a Jose Mourinho reaction to it. They have a huge opportunity here to do something cool with it. I hope they do. There's also an opportunity for something to go horribly wrong and they get criticized, which will also be fun. If you think about all the brands that are always involved in the World Cup, right? Nike, Adidas, Coca-Cola, Budweiser. There's so many brands that you always expect to see there, not just the consumer brands, but there's airlines and so on and so forth. They have to do something different and interesting every year.
Yeah.
You know, they can't just keep doing the same old stuff. So kudos to Coca-Cola for trying something different.
Yeah, definitely. That reminds me, the airline travel one, a side-by-side of like seeing the country, like country play, but like from really far away, or seeing the country, like being in the country. And I thought that was like a really cool way to, bring the attention back to like the actual countries, and not necessarily just making it about, soccer, but still bringing in and making it be about soccer, right? Because it's like, how many of us are actually going to get to go to a game and like watch, the tournament?
I think that's what hopefully AI will do as well, is help people think creatively about what's not been done before and something out of the box, and then produce it, because we're just so used to all the gimmicky, typical stuff. Again, maybe what Coca-Cola might do. Do you remember in the Euro tournament when it was, I think it was Cristiano Ronaldo. He was at a press conference and there was the
Coca-Cola, and then he moved it out of
exactly,
the way.
and he turned it because he's sponsored by Pepsi or whatever it might be. I think it's stuff like that. I think that's hopefully what it enables, because honestly, like what everybody latches onto is something quick, like a very long lead time manufactured. It's very hard in marketing to sort of pull off something that is in the moment, and that's what we seem to love the most. Like, oh, look how quickly they thought of that. So I can't wait to see if that actually happens in these 104 matches this year.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say that that's a great lesson. There is like how quickly you can take, an idea and like build a campaign around it, right? I think that's what was so successful about the Norwegian campaign, was that their community has been doing the Viking rowing chant. That's become like a thing that like symbolizes to everybody in our community, all the Norwegians, that this is like we're rooting for the Norwegian team. And so they took that idea and were like, okay, how do we take that one, to that next step? And so they created this, campaign of dressing up the soccer players as, Vikings. And so it shows that they're, listening to their community. And the fact that they were able to like turn it around, like, pretty quickly, and create that, shows that like, that ability is there. And then for the other ones, it's like, at least for the Nike and like Adidas one, it's like really showcasing the players at like their best, and throwing in some like humorous, moments. But I think also defaulting to the fact that like, as a fan of the World Cup, I expect there to be commercials that show the players like playing soccer, doing all the fancy tricks and like playing against each other and doing all that. So I like that at least those two brands kept that same standard going, and then highlighting the different players doing cool shit, which sometimes you don't need to come up with something brand new when it's like what you already have is effective.
Again, so you've got to know your values if you're going to capitalize on viral moments, and that's what sports is great at. It's a healthy battle of two sides. We shake hands at the end of it, but during that time, it's like Norway versus Sweden, Norway versus England, Norway versus the world. And so they can lean into the Viking stuff, and then at the end of it, everyone's going to be friends. And if you want to be a brand that gets involved in that stuff and not have a backlash, you've got to think about two things. Number one, know what your values are. You have to know what you stand for and what you stand against. Otherwise, if you're just going to react and get pulled into a viral moment or a trend or an opportunity without knowing that, you could get yourself into a lot of trouble. And it comes across as much more authentic when you can see it through that lens, when you see that this is an opportunity to demonstrate your values, and you also have to know what you stand against. The other thing is to know your audience. You have to know who you are for and who you are not for, not who you're against, but who you are not for, because a brand can't be everything to everyone. And maybe that's the challenge of a Coca-Cola and a Nike and an Adidas, is you are trying to appeal to everyone. So they really have to dance on the line of politics very, very closely. But if you know who you are for, just like the Norwegian national team, it's a lot easier to make decisions that we are going to capitalize on this viral moment. We're going to go make this particular photo. But the advice to marketers, if you really want to capitalize on trends, then it's all about listening and monitoring. And I'm not doing a plug for Meltwater, I promise. But the amount, like if you're going to really do something unique, you have to keep a watchful eye. And it's not just about what people say. It's understanding what people think. It's not about just like the specific words or the comments. It's understanding what people think. And true marketing gold, like if I was a CMO, the one thing that I would be fixated on trying to understand is, what do people believe? Because if you understand what people believe, it's so much easier to create stuff that really connects. But if you're just reacting to what people say, that's when you get actually attacked, and you get a little bit of a backlash for being surface level, for just jumping on a bandwagon. So the lesson here is for brands to really understand their values, their audience, and to keep a close eye on what people believe, not just what they say.
Brilliant, brilliant.
So I don't know about you, Sonia, but I really do find myself in this caught in the middle, right? Like I work for a company that I've been using AI while you and I have been chatting. I've been asking Claude, using Meltwater data, all these questions to get the answers. So AI is helpful. My wife, the other day, she comes back from work and she says, "Oh God, I'm so sick of AI." She's a teacher's assistant. So what happened? You know, this particular person from the school district and this particular person from the school district, at the end of the year, they both sent a thank you email to all the teachers. It was clearly written by AI. And she's like, "I'm just so sick of it." And there is that, everybody has that feeling. As someone who relies on AI personally, but also since we talk about it a lot at Meltwater, but I know that almost every human being has that reaction, which is like, I am just so sick of AI. And so that's why I was kind of tickled by this thing that I saw. I was scrolling on Instagram and I saw the Harvard commencement speech by Ronnie Cheng. And I'm a big comedy fan, and I watched The Daily Show, and I kind of like Ronnie Cheng because he's the more provocative, like angry Singaporean guy. And he has a bit of an Australian accent, so maybe I find it easier to understand him. But he went on a tirade about AI. Have you seen the speech, Sonia? Did you watch it?
I haven't, no. But I'm going to have to go watch it after this.
I mean, he drops F-bombs. That's how he opened, or at least the clip that I saw. If the speech had a title, it would be FAI. And he said, and then he made some fantastic jokes about how people brag about using it to write emails. And he goes, "You know what else writes emails really well? Any human being, like just do it." So there is that whole efficiency, but just like what my wife was talking about, when it is AI and when we don't disclose and all these things, it can really rub people the wrong way. But what was interesting was how he brought it up to be a generational thing. He said that the mission of your generation, speaking to the graduates of Harvard, is to destroy AI. I hope that doesn't happen, but there is a part of me that's kind of cheering for destroying the negative aspects and destroying the stigma, which is really just a way of saying, let's move on to the next thing. I'm sick of this phase. And I think a lot of other people are. So I looked at it, and news media, the 19 articles I looked at, 15 of them were negative about what he was saying, criticizing him for what he was saying. And then I was looking at where this all started on social media. Reddit was really where the discussion kind of blew up and lit the fuse, so to speak. So first the story broke in the news, but then Reddit was really where the discussion happened. And the majority of posts on Reddit were positive. They were saying that what he was saying was great, and they were really getting behind him, which is interesting because Reddit is a key ingredient in AI LLM training models. So we live in a world of irony, and I just think the fact that his little speech just got so much attention, it goes to show you that there are some really underlying, unresolved negative feelings.
Yeah, so I looked up the speech. I didn't actually watch it. And so part of the things that stood out to me from what he said were these quotes. Untalented people love bragging about using AI to help them draft their speeches, their scripts, their podcasts, their promo videos for UFC fights at the White House. What they're missing is this: the creating is the fun part. And the other one is our generation's upcoming battle is going to be with people of substance versus people with shallow knowledge, mastery versus faking it, people with good taste versus tacky. And I think he delineated that he is for AI pioneering breakthroughs in science, medicine, physics, but he's against it in terms of creating like art, conversational, like writing, that kind of stuff. And I think that that's what we've talked about here as well, right? Where it's like there is this clear bifurcation between the people who want to be writing books, creating art that are very anti-AI, for creating that art, that I think is a very clear and obvious thing that people can get behind. My bigger thing is that a lot of people just don't know what it means to use AI or how
Hmm.
to use AI, right? Recently I saw that this animator had won this prize to work with Amazon to use AI to create a like cartoon. And he announced that I would be using, AI working with Amazon. So proud and excited to, be one of the first to do this. He got so pilloried that he eventually quit and like apologized for even like doing it. And I thought there was a huge miss here because he didn't explain how AI was going to help, right? Because the main thing that they were trying to do is how do we bring costs down, right? And when people think AI animation, oh, you're just going to use AI to copy other people's art and use it to create your own art. That's the like PR that you're running up against, right? If he had gone in and explained, we're going to use it to like, cut costs on these things and this is how, and show that like he had thought about it not as a way of, getting rid of artists and their jobs and artistry, but to help them create what they're trying to create better, more
Hmm.
effectively, more efficiently, then it could have gone his way. Part of the problem is he doesn't even know. He doesn't even know what he's signing up for, right? And I think it's on us that do use AI to be able to talk about that, right? I'm helping it clean up my grammar, which is kind of what I've done, before with like Grammarly, right? I use Super Whisper to like transcribe what I'm saying and then clean up what I say. It's not removing me or like my thoughts or like my creativity and like what I think, right? It's just kind of cleaning out like what, would have taken me a little bit longer to do before, right? And as a person that like, I'm like a fractional marketer, I, have my own business, I have a lot of clients I have to stay on top of. I've found that it helps me like project manage or like cut, like minutes or like, 15 to 20-minute chunks that would have taken me before to like, basically minutes. And that's where it's like, if I can talk about my experience using AI in that way to help me project manage, to help me, cut down and reduce, how much time I was spending before, that's where it's like, it makes sense for a way to help people just for people to use AI to help them do their jobs. And I think it would remove how much people are associating it taking over people's jobs, right? Because that wasn't a job that people are, would be
Hmm.
doing before, right? Like that was just more of my time I was having to use before. And I think that that's a huge thing that like people that believe in AI are proponents of AI and think that it is going to change things. We have to be talking about AI in a way that is understandable to people and not scary, The other thing is like that reminds me of where Meta had recently announced, actually, they didn't announce it. People inside the company basically leaked that Mark Zuckerberg had said that it had installed in every employee's computer a like tracker in order to train the AI to do their job eventually. Like that's an aspect of AI that like people are it's easy to get to be against, right? Because it's like, oh, you are actively training the models to remove human jobs, right? So I think there needs to be that difference of like
Or
what we're talking about.
what's worse, Meta doing that and letting people know that they're doing it automatically, or Amazon asking people to document everything that they're doing so that they can also do the same thing. It's almost like one company said, hey, this is part of your job. You have to document it. You need to manually train the machine, and Meta's just doing it automatically. And I think there was an interesting story that just came up yesterday. We use AI, obviously, here to transcribe all of our calls.
Yeah.
And it's great for me because anytime a colleague of mine mentions my program, I get to see exactly how people understand the challenges of their jobs, and I'm supposed to help them. So I get an alert about a different conversation. Someone was talking about something totally different, and I overheard this conversation then using AI transcription. And a customer was telling the story of an analyst on the team actively getting in the way of helping our AI tool help them do their job. Because if they were doing it the way that it was designed, it should take 10 minutes. So the customer said to his own colleague, he said, why are you doing this manually? And it's literally taking this person about 9 hours worth of work to go through the data. Why are you doing that? And he said he could tell that there was this colleague of his had trepidations because, well, if it takes 10 minutes, then I'm out of a job. So he messaged her boss and said, let's call her Stephanie. Will you tell Stephanie that if this takes 10 minutes, she's not out of a job? The boss writes back, yes, absolutely. I guarantee her employment. Then what happened next? It took 10 minutes. And then Stephanie said, this is great. And Stephanie's time was freed up to do something else. So back to the topic of whose job is going to go away. It was interesting that everyone in Hollywood freaked out, all the creatives, because they were like, this is going to take my job. But what I have found is that the creatives are no longer worried and shouldn't be worried because AI sucks at creative. Yeah. It's really good at the scientific, the analytical, and it's the analytical people, the scientific, they're the ones whose jobs will actually be impacted, but they already know how to work with AI. So then I still haven't seen any really negative repercussions or jobs being taken away. But I have heard people say, like I have a guy who's in private equity, real estate finance. He's like, well, my job's not going to be necessary in a little bit because AI is really good at making objective decisions. If you want to design something that connects to people's feelings, then you need a human with some emotional empathy who knows how to create something that connects. And I'm not sitting here saying like everyone is going to be okay, but I do wish everyone would just move on and say like, oh, AI is bad because AI sucks. Like, it's just too broad a statement. But then again, narratives are powerful. And the current narrative on AI is inaccurate, but it is the narrative. You got to deal with it.
Yeah. But that's why it's like the example that you gave of Stephanie, right? Where she's focused on that. Well, if I no longer take 9 hours of work to be doing this thing, what will I then do? Well, is the obvious answer not then? You will do more of what you were doing that you couldn't possibly do before because now you've freed up eight hours and like 50 minutes of your time to do, other stuff. I had this happen recently to me. I had to get my car serviced and I called them and they had an AI, customer agent. And at first I was like, oh my God, how do I just get to a human, right? But I like went through it because I was driving. So I like, couldn't be pressing buttons. And then as I'm going, through like the AI, I realized that I didn't have a hard time hearing what they were saying. I didn't feel bad personally of asking them to repeat themselves because I know it's just like a robot. It doesn't care how many times I ask them to repeat itself. I was able to ask for more like date and time options than I ever would have asked of a human because I'm like, oh, I feel bad like making them go back and like look in their calendar system. But I didn't have that feeling with an AI. I'm like, no, look at Monday, look at Thursday. What about 2? And then like I had to call back to like confirm that we were going to get a loaner car. And I can guarantee you that I never would have called if I knew that I would have to talk to a human to ask them a question that I thought like I should know because I made the appointment. But I was totally fine calling knowing that I was going to get to talk to AI and they would just like answer my question and be like, okay, thank you. And then like leave, right? If that's the like opportunity for like AI going forward, like where it's like you do get some customer service examples that are better than like the current process, then like we need to be open to these things, changing the way things work for the better, not just always focus on like the negative because there's always going to be negative. Yes. Like, there are some people that might have to change the way that they do their jobs, right? Maybe it'll be in a way that makes them be able to be more creative or be more assertive and not have to do as much of the inane things that AI is really good at. So
here's the really specific thing about what Stephanie's situation highlights. Stephanie's only job was reporting. So if the report that she currently it takes 9 hours to do takes 10 minutes, then she feels like she's out of a job. Are we advocating that she now has to do a creative job? Is she going to have to learn skills of being a creative writer? No, actually, you know what's going to happen? Exactly what you're describing. Her boss, knowing that, when her boss asks a question, it takes Stephanie 9 hours to produce the answer. But now if her boss knows that it takes Stephanie 10 minutes to produce the answer, her boss is going to ask more questions. Then Stephanie's job does not become some creative writer or a flower arranger. She becomes a super analyst, someone who actually adds human context and helps the boss say, you know what, you asked the question wrong. I know how to use this. And that's what we've seen. So I think there's a natural fear of the unknown, which is, oh, do I have to learn a new job? No, you're just going to get so much better at your job because guess what? Your job is not the output. It's the outcome. It's not producing the report. It's helping your boss make a better decision. And that's what took me. I mean, I'm 42. When I first started in my career, and I'm sure you were like this too, you just want to get the job done. You're not really thinking about how this adds value. And that's what humans do better than AI. The Stephanies of the world are going to learn how they're actually producing value, not producing outputs.
Yeah. No, totally agree. And I think that that's a thing that, like, for the people that are looking to level up, learning the strategy, learning how to analyze the data and not just like report on it. That's like the opportunity of like, how do you focus on those human qualities that like we still do better than AI, and learn to upskill yourself to be not just more relevant in your own job, but for the future roles that you
Yep.
may or want to get to.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So let's round it out with lessons.
This one is easy because it's one lesson. Is creating two types of people. There's people who act like the cat with a laser pointer, who are just freaking out at they're reacting to it. And then there's the person holding the laser pointer. And if you are using AI, not to write emails and speeches and heartfelt things, but if you're using AI to help figure out how you can be better at your job, then you are the person using the laser pointer. And if you're just sitting here on the sideline saying like AI is evil and let's destroy it and blah, 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 again, you can see in Ronnie's speech, he does say where it can be used. And that's where you want to be the human with a laser pointer. You don't want to be the cat reacting to it. And that to me is the lesson is before you form a strong opinion on something, you kind of got to get your hands dirty with it and really figure it out for yourself. I almost guarantee people will find that there are benefits to it and that there are severe consequences. And you just got to learn how to avoid the consequences before you just write something off.
Yes, agree. So I got two lessons here. One is that the premium on judgment is going to go up as the cost of competence goes down. Basically means that like the more that you can figure out how to use AI to help you do your job in a way that's more effective and less time consuming, the better that you're going to learn the judgment, the taste, the creativity and strategy to make your job more of a stronghold at the company that you're at. The other thing is that creating is the fun part. So how do you figure out how to use AI to not do the boring stuff in order for you to focus on the creative stuff? I think most marketers would love to do more of like the strategy and coming up with campaigns and tactics based on ideas that we see every day, ideas that you learn here from, brands that are doing it better at like higher levels because they have teams or larger teams, right? How do you use AI to help you use these ideas for your own marketing campaigns? That's like the opportunity here. And we should be excited to have that ability to, basically, copy ourselves, right? Still have that, be done through AI, but then use the rest of our time to do the stuff that we actually want to spend time on.
Well said. Well said.
Thank you. Okay. So takeaways for this entire episode. Basically, how do you take what's working and amplify yourself? what are you taking from like your community, from your audience, that they're doing, that you can then, piggyback on to show that not only are you listening to them, but that you care about them and you want them to feel as if they're participating with your brand. For the Odyssey, how are you doing, longer marketing campaigns for here? I mean, it's a movie, right? I think one of the hugest lessons that I want people to learn is to take what's happening in Hollywood and movies and see that they're not just doing one lone campaign for a movie. It's like months and months of campaign. And the brilliancy of like what I'm seeing with the Odyssey is that they're pairing themselves with IMAX, a company that's very popular, that people really like, and making that be like a thing that they're using to sell just movies overall. Like it's not just go see the Odyssey. It's like go watch the Odyssey on IMAX, go, buy the merch, participate with everybody else in going to like the movie theaters, which, at least with the Odyssey and the World Cup is like one of those monoculture events that like, if you can, like, become a part of it with your brand.
For me, it's you've reiterated two clear lessons that have always worked really, really well. But I think number one, you've got to have a very clear definition of success. Whenever you're trying something new, which is great. I'm a big proponent of testing out ideas. But if you don't know what the definition of success is, then you won't actually take away anything from it. So having a clear definition of success is so important. It's also very, very important to, if you are uncomfortable and if you are afraid of something, lean into it. Not saying just do it anyway, but don't be fearful, be informed. Meaning read up on it, learn about it, try it, use it. And that's where if you are then trying, say, a new campaign tactic that you've never tried before, like let's say working with creators if you haven't done that, or opening a new account on, say, Reddit or TikTok or something like that, you don't want to just be, what's the phrase that they say is like, bravery is being afraid but doing it anyway, right? Well,
Game of Thrones, yeah.
You don't want to just do it even though you're afraid. You kind of can be informed. And I think Jeff Bezos has the quote that you'll never have 100% of the data because by then it's too late. Being informed means gathering some intelligence to figure out what is the right way and the wrong way to do something. But then the bravery should come from trusting your gut. Get some of the answers, get some of the information, and then go for it. Going back to AI, like Coca-Cola taking a bet on doing this AI thing with Jose Mourinho, they did gather some data to take the risk out of the poor decision. And so they're still trying something different. You've got to take big swings. You've got to be brave, but you should never go into something blindly. So know your definition of success. Try new things, but do so in a way where you are informed, hopefully by data, and then you've got to close the gap with your gut. That's what you've validated for me today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Dino. Where can people find you?
I spend most of my time on LinkedIn and writing newsletters. So I don't know if you can include a link to my newsletter in the show notes. It's the Data-Driven Communications Research Lab newsletter. We talk about all the research that we're finding about how to actually do this stuff. And you can find some of my analogies and memes on LinkedIn, Dino Delic.
Awesome. And then you can follow me at Sonia everywhere and follow the podcast at Meme Team Pod on YouTube and TikTok and the Meme Team Podcast on Spotify. Thank you. See you.
So much fun. Thank you, Sonia.